In classic medieval Jewish literature, the tales of Hasidim, a student asks his master, "What lesson can we learn from atheists?" The master says, "God created atheists to teach us the most important lesson of all, a lesson of true compassion." You see, when an atheist performs an act of charity, visits someone who is sick, helps someone in need, or cares for this world, he is not doing so because of religious teaching. He is not motivated by a promise of reward. He is not aware of any God at all, so his acts are based on an inner sense of moral character and integrity. The kindness he bestows upon others is simply because he feels it to be right and good. He is compelled to do good for goodness' sake. This, my friends, is what we would call a genuinely good person. You see, the Old Testament and the Jews never preached or spoke of a Christian hell. Christianity adopted the theology of hell from the Greeks and the underworld, whereas Jesus had to pass into it before rising up into the clouds to enter heaven. The only reason to worship or love a Christian God is for a reward of heaven or a fear of hell. If this God were to be real, he does nothing for you that you cannot do for yourself. He is completely absent from reality, and we should ask ourselves why. Christians will say, "It's because God wants you to truly love him, and we couldn't do that if he manifested into reality." This has never made sense to me. Is it better for a parent to abandon their children in order to be truly loved by them? By disappearing, a love can be more genuine? In what universe does this reasoning make the slightest bit of sense? Some Christians will say, "Well, God can do anything, but does not appear or perform magical miracles anymore today because this life is a test of faith. What reward would we deserve if we believed only because we could see God or witness his magic tricks?" Okay, that one's fair enough reasoning. But in that case, it is an evil test put on by a psychopathic God, because, given the overwhelming lack of evidence, most humans will fail. Furthermore, it is essentially a multiple-choice quiz that will either favor you or curse you based on what culture you were born into. If you were born in Pakistan with Muslim parents, you will most likely fail this test. The atheist should be the only one who passes, due to his or her admitting that the answer is unverifiable, and refusing to choose an answer based only on feelings or cultural brainwashing. Why should an atheist be punished for wondering, for asking questions, or for doubting, when instead he or she should be rewarded for being true to their intellect? If anybody were to read the Bible with all logical faculties functioning, and read something like Jesus feeding 5,000 people with just 2 fish, it would no doubt become very clear that these tales, all of them, do not mirror reality, but rather mythology and folklore. A wise person will rightfully doubt such outlandish tales. Is it not more logical to simply realize that a Christian God does not appear in reality because it is not reality? Is it that difficult to comprehend for believers? Should we not be praised for our refusing to be duped or brainwashed? If I were God, I would think it is this guy, the atheist, who deserves some respect for using his intelligence and casting off superstitions or fables that have been heavily pressed upon us since we were children. This is the guy who has overcome, and he readily admits what he cannot know. And that, my friends, is honesty. This guy deserves a reward, and not because he thinks he has earned one. And that is called integrity. If there is a heaven, this is why I believe many atheists deserve to be the first in line. However, the Christian God will torture this guy and reward those who were born and brainwashed in the Bible Belt, regardless if they have raped or cheated others. It's rather despicable. Religious folks usually and profoundly misunderstand atheism. 9 out of 10 times, a Christian will say that atheists reject God. This would imply that the atheist actually believes in their God, but willingly protests against it. This is how believers try to rationalize others' lack of belief. Atheists do not reject God. They simply are not aware of the existence of any gods spoken of or believed in by other people. The same way Christians do not believe in Allah is the same way atheists do not believe in Jesus. There is no rejection involved. Christians will also oftentimes say that atheists are rejecting God so they can sin, or in other words, cheat, steal, or hurt other people, or generally live a bad lifestyle. This also is not true, and my experience with atheist friends is that most of them are very rational and moral, with big hearts, and it is Christians who are likely to be the ones who cheat, molest, or steal. Perhaps more so than atheists, because in Christian theology, you are no longer accountable for your sin. Jesus has provided a scapegoat, or free forgiveness, whereas an atheist will feel accountable and willingly accept punishment for all of his deeds. In my humble opinion, atheists have reached the highest point of human development thus far, and the improvements we see in quality of life over the last few hundred years have been largely attributed to free thinkers, unshackled by the weight of religious dogma that kept us in the Dark Ages for so long. Next time you meet an atheist, give them a warm smile. They deserve it. And stay strong and wise, my friends.
We don't